The following program features a man watching The View while trying to keep his brain from stabbing itself to be put out of its own misery. The host is a trained professional with years of experience in safely engaging with illogic that is dangerously mind-numbing. Do not try this at home alone. Please respect the flat screen TV rule. That is, friends don't let friends hold loaded weapons while watching The View. So stick around and punch that like button like it's a wall in Meghan McCain's house, because we are just moments away from starting the following program. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the fine program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope your last couple of days went well. I apologize that I missed a show last night. I wasn't expecting to skip out on a show last night. I ended up working with Nathan, who, God bless Nathan. Dude is awesome as far as just editing, formatting for my Supreme Court filing. We spent over 4.5 hours just taking care of nitpicky formatting so that everything would look chef's kiss amazing. And it does. I haven't provided a link for it yet. I do plan on providing that in Locals. I'll drop it there first, and I'll probably end up dropping it on X later on. A link to my ultimate filing. It did go out earlier today. I have a different update for y'all about our Ungag Trump updates, which I plan on dropping on you in the middle of the show. We'll probably cover that after I get to another story first. So the order of the sequence of events as I'm looking at it for how I'm planning, how I structured the show tonight, is first I want to break down for you the legal decision in favor of the Armentas. The Armentas, you may recall, is a story we covered with that adorable 9-year-old kid who was dressed in Chiefs colors, with red and black face and a big headdress. Deadspin wrote a very salacious article accusing him of offending two different minorities in at the same time. And their claims were just unbelievably absurd. We'll get to that. So that's the first story I plan on covering with you. I also plan on breaking down for you further updates on Ungag Trump and perhaps one or two other small little blurbs that I just want to call to your attention in case you missed it. And then the back end of this show, I'm going to be going through Kamala's collapse and how she is desperately flailing around. And we're probably going to end up watching that 60 Minutes interview. I don't know if I'm going to end up escaping review of that, because I have a feeling 60 Minutes is not going to like me watching that with you. And perhaps, and one or two clips from The View also. I'm not watching the entire View thing only because they're fawning over Kamala is so stupidly, saccharinely, like, just staged that it's just, I don't know how anyone could watch. I don't know how anyone sits through it. So that's what I wanted. That's basically the sequence of events in case you're wondering what I'm planning on doing here. I did want to share one clip with you here, which is, it's pretty funny. This is, I don't know if you all, I don't know if any of you caught this. I'm sure a couple of you probably did. This is a clip of Elon and Tucker Carlson laughing about the prospects as to what would happen to them if, in fact, Trump loses the election and Kamala ends up coming into power. And this is their speculation about that potential event. This was pretty funny.
If he loses, man, what? You're fucked, dude.
I'm fucked. If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way. You can't just be like, yo,
yeah, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Will I see my children? I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but you know, I have
no plausible deniability.
It's great.
No, and I've been trashing Kamala nonstop.
Oh, I know. If he loses, man, what?
Anyway, I thought it was funny that he can like be so flippant about. I was like, that was a pretty base moment there from Elon. That was a pretty base moment from Elon. That he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna see my kids again. I think it's gonna be like, no, solitary confinement, pretty much. For me, my sentence is gonna be solitary confinement. What's the crime? God only knows. God only knows. I don't know. Anyhow, where was I? Yes. Okay. Next up, what I wanted to cover with you is this story is actually a couple days old, and a lot of people have covered it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I just wanted to share this with you. When I first saw this story, I'm not kidding when I said to you, "Oh wow, this is good. This is good." I saw the opening sentence, and and actually the opening paragraph, and I was like, "Oh wow, she's actually doing something I kind of agree with here." What was that? And Kamala wrote, and it's posted, "The people of Lebanon are facing an increasingly dire humanitarian situation. I'm concerned about the security and well-being of civilians suffering in Lebanon. Continue working to help meet the needs of all civilians there. It's that in the United States will provide nearly $157 million in additional assistance." And wait, I was like, wow. Because Lebanon, New Jersey is not that far from me. I was like, I can't believe it. Like she's going to be like, she's actually spending some American funds on here in New Jersey. I'm like, I'm wondering what situation. I really thought Lebanon, New Jersey. When I first read this, I was like, the people of Lebanon are facing an increasingly dire humanitarian situation. And I literally assumed it was Lebanon, New Jersey. Now I'm probably the only, you probably have to live within like 50 miles of Lebanon to actually even think of them. But the first thing I thought when I saw this was, oh, she's sending mine to Lebanon, New Jersey. Okay. And then when I saw she's sending 157 another country, how stupid are you? How dumb are you? How you have hurricanes that are ravaging the country. And it's like, and you don't have enough money for it. There was an exchange. I that I saw that Peter Ducey had with KJP, which was just like, it was just astonishing. He was asking her what happened. Like, why is it that you have money to send to Lebanon when there's a shortfall for humanitarian aid in North Carolina? And we also know that there's all sorts of disaster that, God forbid, if you're in the area, in the state of Florida, I urge you to, certainly heed whatever suggestions your local authorities are giving you about staying safe. So, yeah, that's certainly something I urge all you to do. So, but yeah, we have all these natural disasters that are striking here at home, and it's like, how are you out of your mind to say that I'm a month away from? It's not. This is the thing. Even if this is your agenda, even if this is your perspective, even if you're an American leader who basically is like, you're America last. I mean, let's face it. Her policies are not, on one side America first, and the other side you have it's America first versus America last. Okay. Fine. But you see how during election season, they try hiding the America last perspectives to their persona. Yeah, sure. For 3.5 years, we'll leave the border wide open, and we'll have policies that make it easier for illegal aliens to come in here. And then the first policy she engaged in when they came into office, the first bill that they wanted to set up, that she complains that never made it through Congress, was rejected by a Democratic Congress, and it was proposing amnesty for all illegal aliens who came across the border. So it's like, and the Democrats who were in control of the House and in control of the Senate were like, yeah, we're not bringing this forward. We're not bringing this forward. This is crazy. This is crazy. And that's when she talks about her bills. That's what she says is this is what's never made it through Congress, as if it's a stalwart Republican Congress that guy that was stonewalling her. But okay, that's not a bill she's going to be putting forward in 2024. That's not something she's going to be advocating in 2024. No. In 2024, she tries dressing it up as like, I'm trying to close the border. Now I'm trying to close the border. Before I'm having it wide open and granting amnesty to everyone. That's the 2021 policy. 2024, because there, it's like everyone can know, yeah, obviously, we can suck the teat of the American taxpayer and make their lives as challenging as possible in order to help make life a little bit better for people who are not Americans, because that's your classic America Last policy. I can understand that happening in 2021, 2022, 2023, when you're in the heat of an election campaign and you're running against someone who's all about make America great again. Let's go back to our roots. Let's go back to our foundational perspectives. Let's actually take care of ourselves, of American citizens. Let's how about that? How about that suggestion? And she's trying to put on this face that she actually cares about American citizens for at least the 6 months leading up to the election, or well, in her case, I guess 3 months leading up to the election, and she can't. And even that mask slips away, and she's like, "Hey, Middle Eastern country over there, we have no real affiliation to. Here's $157 million. You folks over in Raleigh, North Carolina, you folks who are headed for God knows what in Florida, we're gonna have to go to Congress, ask Congress for more money. We got to figure out. You're gonna have to get congressional approval on that. We can't work that slush fund out. No. FEMA doesn't have money for them. FEMA has money for Lebanon. FEMA doesn't have enough money for North Carolinians. It's just mind-blowing. What's astonishing to me is it shows such lack of understanding, basic lack of understanding of what Americans want, what Americans are desperate for, that itself is a display of a lack of leadership. How can you be a leader when you have no clue what it is that your constituents want from you? Who the hell, which American? I want to tell me the American who wants to see this now in October 2024, that they want to see that it's not Lebanon, New Jersey, the way Joe first thought. No. It's actually Lebanon, the country, that we're sending an additional $157 million after we've raised them. I think roughly $350 million. The total is over, I think, from what I remember seeing, over $500 million. If I'm mistaken about that, I apologize. I'm not trying to mislead anyone, but that we spent well over 400, I think over 500 million in Lebanon. And it's astonishing. It's astonishing. Like this is what she's pitching. This is what she's pitching. That's a very smart leader there. She really understands what her constituents are looking for. It's mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing. There is also a Lebanon, Tennessee. There's that also. Yeah. The Lebanon tweet was to buy off Michigan vote and had 57,000 Lebanese in Michigan. Yeah. Okay. I don't think she's got to worry about Michigan, honestly. I told you. I think Michigan's in the bag. I think in Michigan, if they have to, set up a burning fire of like Trump ballots in the back room of those campaign rooms, I think Whitmer will arrange for that. And it's purely speculation. It's not based on fact. It's based on speculation. But it's based on speculation. That speculation is not just from nowhere. It's from the fact that they actually changed the law in Michigan to make it impossible for anyone but the Secretary of State to actually investigate election fraud. So when you get your right hand hoochie mama next to you, and you say she's the only one who can see, who's allowed to investigate fraud, and we're stripping those powers away from the Michigan legislature, we're stripping that away from any other commissions or agencies or entities that they would have a power to conduct an investigation. I say to myself, your only motivation for doing that, the most logical explanation for your motivation for doing that is that you have every intention of cheating your brains out in the next election. That's my conclusion. You can think I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong in that conclusion, that's okay. I'm telling you what the source of my opinion is. So it is my opinion, but I'm telling you it's not just a baseless opinion. It's based on what I see being human nature and how thieves act. This is how corrupt people act. I said, I don't want people investigating me. I'd much be happier if I could be corrupt. No one has the power. No one who's actually going to do any investigation is going to be investigating me. So when Michigan passes a law like that, the most logical conclusion I can draw is that they have every single intention of cheating their brains out. And that can literally mean setting fire to Trump ballots. And I'm not saying they're going to I don't know how they'll cheat. It can mean printing out as many Kamala Harris ballots as they want. My point is that Kamala Harris, the reason I bring this up in this context, I don't think Kamala Harris needs to worry about winning Michigan. I think they're going to have enough monopoly money type of votes there. She doesn't have to worry about it. It's like that Gretchen Whitmer should have been like, don't worry about appeasing the Lebanese population of my state here. You don't and alienating the rest of the country. You're already safe here. We could see polls in Michigan showing Trump being plus 11 in Michigan, and I'm gonna be like, no, he's never gonna take it. He'll never take it. There's no way. I hope I'm wrong. I'd be happy to prove it wrong, but I will never. I'll have to see it to believe it. Seriously, if he was at plus 15 in Michigan, I don't think he would win it. I don't think he's going to win it. I think that it's like, oh my, look at it, this amazing turnout. The polls really underestimated Kamala's influence here, uniquely here in Michigan. That's what we're going to see. That's what I'm expecting to see. I hope you're right, Allegan. I hope you're right. I'm simply saying, I think that no matter what turnout Trump gets, I think that Gretchen Whitmer, Dana Nessel, or Secretary of State there, or is it Attorney General? I'm not even sure what role she had. I think it was, but basically that it smells like there is so much corruption in their elections that I have zero faith that they're not literally setting Trump ballots, going to set Trump ballots on fire. I mean, on fire. I mean, fire. I mean, you could throw it down. You could throw it into shredder. There's lots of ways you can do it. Lots of ways to tinker around. You should go out and vote your brains out, of course. Look, and anytime you hear someone talk about election fraud, whether it's me or any other person, that should not in any way, shape, or form be discouraging you from voting. That's not my objective here. You should go out there and vote hard, because if you don't vote hard, and there isn't like a significant turnout, then it's much, much easier to cheat. It's much easier to cheat. So I don't want anyone to ever watch a broadcast of mine and say, well, it's over. What's the point in actually? No. Vote your brains out. I'm telling you right now. I'm going to vote. I'm going to be yelling at each of my wife and each of my kids to make sure they vote. I'm telling you now. I think voting is very important. And I think that a major part of the reason it's important is because if it's not close, no one's ever going to investigate anything anywhere. Right? It's only when it's close that people count. People actually start looking at things. So if people don't show up, especially people who tend to watch my broadcast, which I understand there are some Democrat viewers here, but I think that you're only hurting the cause. So go out there, vote your brains out, and I hope you're right. I'm just telling you, I won't believe Michigan until I see it officially called for Trump. Yeah, I think New Jersey's more in play because I don't think they work as hard to steal it here. That's the reason why. New York, to be fair, has historically a really bad reputation. I mean, literally going back a century from Tammany Hall, like literally going back a century of there, long before you or I were following elections, going back to like the early 1900s, like of like blatant thievery of elections. So yeah, New York has a pretty bad history. I can't deny that. I cannot deny that. Anyway, so with those out of the way, oh, look at this. He took care of me. It finally worked. Did it finally work? Does it work now? Yay, it works. God bless you. I saw him here in the chat. Just now. This is Nathan, who I spent like 4 hours working with on editing and formatting last night. And he managed to finish, complete creating a link here for my Supreme Court petition, which is all finally wrapped up here. So I don't know why it says start free trial. I'm already part of Adobe, but all right, whatever it is, this is working. I'll be sharing that link on Locals. Like, no, let me share the link now. I'm gonna do that now. Let me share the link in Locals. I'll put it in the comments under the chat in case any of you want to be able to read it, and then I'll probably tweet it out later. So let me just do that. I want to do. Let's do that here. Link to SCOTUS application for writ / emergency stay. All right, that's done. That's there. All you can access it. And thank you again, Nathan, for your amazing. Your help was phenomenal. I don't know how I would have gone across the finish without your help last night. So thank you, brother. All right, let's get in and start talking about the Armentas. And some of you may remember this story. I covered this story when it first broke, which was, well, last NFL season. So we're talking it's at least 9 months ago. It was during the regular season because the Chiefs were playing the Raiders, and that didn't happen in the playoffs. So what was the story the story will be broken down. Those of you who forgot the story will be broken down in the decision that the court came down with. So we'll get some backstory there from the decision, which I actually started highlighting and then I completed by underlining. So you're going to see me switch over from highlighting to underlining pretty quick in my marked up papers here. So let's get into that and start looking at the case of Raul Armenta, Shannon Armenta, individually on behalf of their minor son H.A. Their minor son H.A. Really adorable kid. Really adorable kid. That you can see a picture of him in my thumbnail. Kid is adorable. Okay. Deadspin, some leftist publication, published an image of a child displaying his passionate fandom as a backdrop for its critique of NFL's diversity efforts, and in his description of the child, crossed the fine line protecting its speech from defamation claims. So that's a pretty strong opening statement. This is a decision on Deadspin's application motion to dismiss the complaint of the Armentas. And it's important to note that this complaint was actually filed in the Superior Court of the state of Delaware. This becomes relevant later on, as far as in a few different ways. But this was filed in Delaware. Okay. All right. So Deadspin publishes this image, and in the description, they cross the line. On November 26, 2023, Armenta family, mother, father, minor son, traveled from California to Las Vegas, Nevada to attend an NFL game between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. H.A., Armenta's minor son, who was, I think, 9 at the time, wore Native American headdress, painted his face black and red, and donned a Chiefs jersey, as in Chiefs colors, black and red. During the game, a television broadcast focused briefly on H.A., and then they created screenshots of the television broadcast that was circulating online. So the following day, Deadspin published an article with an accompanying screenshot describing the boy as wearing blackface. He's wearing blackface. He's as bad as Howard Stern. He's wearing blackface. Freaking racist. Wearing blackface. And a display of racial animus toward African Americans and a native headdress to display his hatred towards the Native Americans. Further surmised that his parents taught him the hatred. Oh, you're just a bunch of racist parents teaching your kids to hate. By the way, this kid is literally 1/4 Native American, which is, I think from what I recall, his father is a son of the chief of the Chumash Indians. I think that's what they call it. But the Chumash tribe. And this kid is 1/4. It's like, talk about like bad luck. That's bad luck. That's bad. That's not helping things out if you're Deadspin. That the kid happens to be someone who is actually Native American. Now, Armenta sued Deadspin for defamation. Certain Deadspin's reporting caused him serious reputational and emotional harm. No doubt it did. So Deadspin moves to dismiss under what we call Superior Court Civil Rule 12b-6, which is, interestingly, that's mirroring the federal rules of civil procedure. This is Delaware State Court. In federal court, which frequently you'll see that civil rules in a state will mirror it. New York does not mirror the federal rules nearly as neatly as that, where it's like the same motion to dismiss is tracking the language and what's it called? I guess the numbering system, but there's a pagination. Is it pagination? Is pagination correct? For like identifying the same rule in the same vein, in the same number. I think it's pagination. It's not just when you're labeling pages the same. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be corrected, I'm sure. So, but for now, I'm going to assume the proper term is pagination. So Delaware's state civil procedure regulations seem to mirror that of the federal rules of civil procedure, because in the federal rules of civil procedure, when you bring a motion to dismiss, it too would be under Rule 12b-6. And they're contending that the article contained expression of opinion. And we see this defense all the time. Whenever you see a defamation lawsuit, the very first thing you should be looking for is they're going to be like, it's opinion. How many people have we seen defend with that successfully from both sides of the aisle, right? That you saw Rachel Maddow, Tucker Carlson, each of them have successfully defended and frequently slapped down lawsuits in jurisdictions where anti-SLAPP statutes are governing. So we've seen that the defense of opinion seems to work pretty effectively for a lot of these different media publications. But so they say it's opinion and they're therefore insulated. And frankly, I'm not going to kid you. At first blush, when you read it, the claim that it's opinion doesn't sound crazy. In their opinion, he's racist. They could be wrong, but if they're expressing opinion that he's racist, opinion, if it's not a statement of fact, but it's a statement of opinion, that seems like that seems like a viable defense, which would be ripe for dismissal. So I don't blame Deadspin for bringing the motion to dismiss. This was not a stall tactic. I think this is something that Deadspin was fairly confident they would be successful in knocking this case out and getting a decision being the exact opposite of this and saying case dismissed. So that's why we want to break down, well, why didn't the court go along that route? So after reviewing the complaint, the court concludes that Deadspin's statements accusing HA of wearing blackface and native headdress to hate black people and Native Americans at the same time, and they was taught this hatred by his parents, are provably false assertions of fact and are therefore actionable. What makes them provably false assertions of fact? But accordingly, Deadspin's motion is denied. Denied. Which, that is a massive, massive loss. Because most cases, most defamation cases, that particular cause of action do not survive a motion to dismiss. Most of them do not survive. Most of them die at this early phase. Further, their motion to dismiss based on forum nonconvenience favoring California is also denied. So there you go. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about forum nonconvenience. I intend to bypass that when we're covering this. To me, that's a more boring conversation that's really for serious law nerds. But forum nonconvenience is a motion to say that this jurisdiction that the plaintiff brought the action is not convenient and inappropriate for us to be here. And accordingly, saying that Delaware State Court they might have jurisdiction over us, that they have a right to bring us here, but since it's so ridiculously inconvenient, the court should deny it. And the court ends up going through an 8-page dissection as to why that's not a valid basis for denial. But seeing as how that's really more of that's a geekier law fan type of issue, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. All right. So you got Raul and Shannon Armenta and their 9-year-old son. They're residents of California. This is important. We don't realize when you read this how important this is, but they are residents of California. On November 26th, they go to the game. He appears in his face painted half black, half red. There's a CBS television broadcast for approximately 3 seconds. A still photo of a screenshot soon starts circulating, and it shows at an angle displaying only the half of his face painted in black. Now, on the screenshot, when the video was watching him, you can actually see both the black and red. But during a certain period of time when the camera was trained on him, he turned his face away from the camera. I'm not sure if he turned his face or the camera angle shifted or whatever it was, but you went from being able to see the red portion of his face to just seeing half his face and only seeing the black portion. Defendant G/O Media, doing business as Deadspin, is a media company headquartered in New York and incorporated in Delaware. Day after the football game, Deadspin published an article written by non-party senior writer Karen Phillips. If you watch my coverage of this, we had a lot of fun laughing at how this dude, who was so outrageously harsh on both kid and parent and complaining about their conduct, I found it kind of amusing that you have a dude named Karen doing all this complaining. So Karen was criticizing our mentors, the NFL, the commissioner, and the kid. And the kid, let's face it, he's already being taught to hate and lead social injustice initiatives. The original article read, the NFL needs to speak out against the Chiefs fan in blackface, native headdress. They're doubling up on racism. Are you going to say anything, Roger Goodell? Roger Goodell is the commissioner of the NFL. The screenshot showing only the black half of his face appeared directly below the headline. So it looks like a white kid. What it really looks like from just that half screenshot. Let me see if I can get that Deadspin article so you can actually get a picture of it. Deadspin. They take it. I'm not sure if they took it down. No, they did an update. I think they took it down. I think they may have took it down because they end up doing an update later on. And in the update, they take the picture of the kid out. But yeah, this is a little collage here for you of pictures of this kid. So adorable. Kid's so adorable. I mean, look at this face. Look at this face. Oh my gosh. Look at that kid. Just want to pinch his cheeks. So this is the picture they took of him. This is the picture here. Unbelievable. Like they get that profile shot. I mean, look at this picture with the thing saying, yeah.
Believe in me?
For a TurboTax expert. Sing it, Adam.
TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax
For your stupid pop-ups.
This fall, switch to a turbo.
So this is the picture they showed of the kid saying, Deadspin, the NFL really needs to do something about their kids in blackface. Unbelievable. It's so twisted. It is so utterly twisted. Unbelievable. Anyway. Well, it says, can an opinion, if made public through news platform, be defamation? Not if it's opinion, no. In other words, opinions by an organization that has impacted in public opinion. No. Rachel Maddow literally does it every day. In fact, part of the way she does it is she'll say literally and then say the word literally, it means figuratively, which is something she wrote in defense, successfully defending a defamation suit. And Tucker Carlson, who no one really looks at him, I think, as being like comedy, but he basically was like, I'm an opinion show. No one takes me like seriously as if I'm telling you facts. They both did that. Frankly, I thought that Rachel Maddow's was more egregious, but you know, the left always, every time you bring up Tucker Carlson to the people on the left is saying that they're a joke. Every time you bring up Rachel Maddow to point out how MSNBC is a joke, they will always, someone from the left will always throw back at you Tucker Carlson. And while I think the Tucker Carlson situation is a little bit different, it's really not the same thing as someone using the word literally a Russian agent, which is what I believe she said, literally a Russian agent, when it was not at all literally. You're literally killing me. So, yeah. So she expresses opinion that I'm sure sways a lot of people all the time. That would still be protected. You're gonna see the court does a very neat job of explaining why this opinion is not just a statement of opinion and where it crosses, what makes it across a line, which is a really interesting concept of law. Gotta squash this problem. NFL fans bringing kids to games in blackface is a national issue. Yes, it's a national issue there, Joe. All right. Beneath the screenshot of the article open, it takes a lot to disrespect two groups of people at once, but on Sunday afternoon in Las Vegas, a KC Chase fan found a way to hate them both black and Native Americans. The article rhetorically inquired, despite their age, who taught that person that what they were wearing was appropriate? Well, I don't know. Maybe his grandpa, who's an Indian. I don't know. Who's the chief of the Chumash Nation? I don't know. Maybe it's and if they pass their rulership like you know, through a patriarchal line, he's actually one day, you would think, son of a son. He may be in line to be chief of the Chumash Nation. This kid, it's his father, is the son of the chief. So yeah, he's like second in. For all we know, he's second in line to be the next chief of the Chumash Nation, and they're calling him out as being like culturally appropriate. Oh my God. See, that's just that part of it. That's just bad luck. I'll laugh at Deadspin because they were being malicious in trying to make him look like he hates black people. That he was, and also knowing that of course, he's not trying to be mean to Indians or Native Americans or whatever you want to call them. He's not trying to be mean to anyone. He's just enjoying the game. Like, why do you got like just just urinate all over him? So yeah, I think it's funny that they happen to pick on a grandson of the chief of the Chumash nation as being racist by wearing an Indian headdress. Despite Deadspin posted a link to the original article on the social media platform, they're meant to contend that their reputation were damaged by Deadspin's publication, and after they started receiving hateful messages and death threats, they requested Deadspin take your freaking article off of your website. So instead, they republished an edited version of the original article on November 30th. And that's they called the November 30th update. So they didn't take the article down. They basically edited it by taking out the picture of the kid. So that article, in fact, let me see. Yeah, so it's the same article without the kid, as far as I know. But it retained the same accusations of blackface and bigotry against Native Americans. Oh, it did display, and it continued to display his picture. I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. I thought they took the picture out. On November 7th, Deadspin again updated the article. The December 7th update removed his picture. Oh, okay, I thought that's what happened. And changed the headline to culturally insensitive face paint instead of blackface. But maintained that he wore what appeared to be blackface paint. So even then, they were still saying it was blackface paint. So they say that neither the November 30th update or the December update stopped the hateful and threatening messages. And they contend that that Deadspin's publications directly led to the family's fear for their safety. And HA's declined academic performance, which is awful. It's really awful. I really feel bad for that kid. And then they updated a third time, and no claim arises from the final update. Okay, so now they bring a suit for defamation. So count one asserts defamation per se, as opposed to per quad. When we talk about defamation per se, what that means is that you don't need any context to say this is derogatory. You read the statement and you recognize that no one wants to be called that. No one wants to be labeled that. There are certain types of things that are well established in law that are always going to be defamation per se. If you claim wrongfully, it has to be a lie, obviously. If you wrongfully claim that somebody has an STD, that is considered defamatory per se. It's necessarily harming their reputation. As opposed to if you say, that guy never went to college, that guy never graduated high school, that might not be defamation per se. But if you find out that the person is, as a professional who's holding out credentials as if he's a doctor or a lawyer or some Wall Street, investment guru who actually has an MBA, and you make that statement. So that now is called defamation per quad. Quad is spelled Q-U-O-D. It's a Latin term, which means that you need to have further context to understand why that's derogatory, because a lot of people don't finish high school. It's not considered, and they don't find any shame in it. So so that's called defamation per quad. The difference is that when it's defamation per se, you don't actually need to establish damages in order to be able to collect. You don't have to show I was harmed this much. Defamation per quad, you actually have to establish your damages and the level of harm that you sustained. That's one difference. There's a couple of other smaller differences also, as I recall. Anyway, so what do they say? They say that there's three distinct defamatory messages. One is he wore blackface, a public display of vile racist conduct toward black people. So first, that he's racist to black people. Two, that he's racist against Native Americans with the headdress. And three, there's a claim by the parents Raul and Shannon, saying that they taught their kid to hate Black and Native Americans. That they're basically like, oh, let's all just go like hold some Klan rallies here and go storm up against some Black and find some local tribe and try burning down their teepees. No, that's not what they were teaching their kid. Count one asserts that the following statements are false, defamatory, and constitute defamation per se. Look at how many statements there are here. It's astonishing. So first you got a photo that's selectively and misleadingly edited to make it look as if he's wearing blackface because they're only showing one side of his face. Caption saying Chief Fan Sunday in blackface, which no one historically has called half a face black, half a face red blackface. The title of the article saying that he'd speak out against the Kansas City Chiefs fan in blackface and native headdress. On Sunday afternoon, another statement was on Sunday afternoon, the Chiefs fan found a way to hate Black people and Native Americans at the same time. Another statement saying HA and his family are doubling up on the racism. Another statement saying the image of a Chiefs fan in blackface leads to so many unanswered questions. What unanswered questions? Tell us what unanswered questions, Karen Phillips. Statement that his costume was as if John Gruden emails had come to life. Apparently, John Gruden has his own drama with respect to various statements he's made at various times. Statement that this HA is this is what happens when you ban books. Stand against critical race theory. Oh, you know why he's wearing Chiefs regalia? Because he's standing against critical race theory. That's why. Listen to this woke jackass and try to erase centuries of hate. No one's trying to erase it. No, we're not trying to erase it. We're trying to have you not rebrand it. You give future generations HA the ammunition they need to evolve. The ammunition they need to evolve and recreate racism better than before. Listen to this Karen Phillips. Listen to this Karen Phillips. That this kid wearing a red and black face paint and a headdress is racism better than before. The first go round, we only had, slavery, carnage, death, whipping people. We only had that low-level racism on the first go round. But now it's recreated better than before that Black and Native Americans are far, far more oppressed than instead of having to deal with the relatively light racism, in the opinion of Karen Phillips, of, being sold off at auction and forced to serve someone in the most demeaning way possible, that according to Karen Phillips is really trivial. No. Far more calamitous is they have to see a kid on TV wearing face paint and a headdress. Recreating racism better than before. I mean, how big a doofus do you have to be to actually write this sentence? How big a doofus? How ignorant? It's so offensive. And I know Karen Phillips is black. I understand Karen, whatever his name is. What was his name? I got his name here. It was... Yeah, what is Karen Phillips? Yeah, I know he's black. I remember seeing his picture that he was black. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, how self-involved do you have to be? It's actually it's the same thing. Like when I see Jews complaining about how like this situation is like, worse than Europe in the 1930s. I'm like, are you out of your freaking, like, you can't, it's offensive. It's offensive to say that. And I don't care what your nationality is. I don't care what your race is. I'm offended on behalf of black people that he's basically trivializing the first go round of racism as if that's not nearly as terrible as seeing some kid on TV with a headdress and face paint. Unbelievable. Freaking, it's like I have to try and make my point with such drama that I'm going to spit on the actual suffering of people who genuinely suffered in order to tout my own grievances as if this is I'm some modern day I'm some modern day martyr whose suffering here is far greater than you can possibly bear or imagine. Unbelievable. Okay. So getting back to these statements here. He also wrote that the image of the Chiefs fan in blackface wearing a native headdress during a road game leads to so many unanswered questions. These questions lead back to the NFL. While it isn't the league's responsibility to stop racism and hate from being taught at the home, they are a league that has relentlessly participated in prejudice. So the implication here being that it's being taught in the home, and that's defamatory to the plaintiffs. Count 2 asserts defamation by implication. So those statements that they cited here. The first 8 statements are rather overt. These are more defamatory by implication. How is it by implication? Well, you got a photo that Deadspin selectively and misleadingly edited to make it appear as if he was wearing blackface. So even if they didn't put a caption, they're trying to make him look like that. Then you have an image of Chiefs fan in blackface wearing native headdress during a road game leads to so many unanswered questions, which if it's not overt, then it's by implication. And the answers to all these questions lead back to the NFL. And this statement here, and what the lawyer is doing when they write like this, they're like, these statements here, you might not call them actually, they might qualify as defamation per se. They might be defamation by implication. So this way, you're sort of covering your bases. It's a smart way to draft because you're just, if you don't want to give it to me this way, look at it the other way. Yes, I know he's different. And I know the story is very different. I don't want to get tied down in that. You're correct. But you are correct. You are correct. There are very different circumstances. HML's audience average age of 73 is still believe about anything. You know, it's funny. They actually talk, Allegan, about the intended audience and the impact it would likely have on the audience. The demographics of the audience seems to be a factor in assessing whether or not something is defamation. Like the expected nature of the audience is actually a factor as to whether or not it's considered defamatory. It's a really interesting element to the totality of circumstances that we're going to be looking at in just a moment. Count 3 asserts defamation per se is substantially identical to count 1, but based on the November 30th update. And then you got count 4, also stemming from the November 30th, has defamation by implication, offers, and it's similar to 1, 2, 3. Okay. And count 5 is just a repeat of everything but related to the December 7th update. We got the overall concept. Okay, let's get into the standard of review. Remember, you might recall when I started telling you about this that the state here is very important. The state that they come from is important. And that's because the court here starts by saying, we understand we're here in Delaware, but sometimes when you're in state court, you have to apply foreign laws of other states. And that's what we're going to do here. That's what they're going to end up doing very shortly. They say, look, 12B6 governs a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim. When we're assessing that, we go through these 4 things. You have to accept all well-pleaded factual allegations as true. So since you're looking to knock out the plaintiff and say you won't get a day in court, so we have to say, okay, well, what if a jury believes everything that the plaintiff is saying? So, okay, so if they believe everything he's saying and you accept vague allegations as well-pleaded, if they give the opposing party notice of the claim, that you can figure out what they're getting at, and draw all reasonable inferences in favor of the non-moving party, which is usually the plaintiff, and that is being the non-moving. Usually, it's the defendant who's bringing this motion, so the non-moving party is usually the plaintiff. And 4, do not address a dismissal. No, affirmative dismissal unless the plaintiff would not be entitled to recover under any reasonably conceivable set of circumstances. So as a general notion, when you're bringing a motion to dismiss, you need to basically prove to the court that, look, based on what they claim here, if you look at all the facts in the light most favorable to the plaintiff, they still would not be allowed to win under the law. And that's when you succeed in a 12v6 motion. So they don't want to engage in the anti-SLAPP statute. They would go with our conceivable standard of review on a motion to dismiss. I don't want to get into that whole thing, but they say that at the end of the day, you still have a high bar to clear to establish defamation. All right. I told you I don't want to spend too much time talking about the forum nonconvenience. I'm going to skip right past that. Let's get into the analysis. This court follows the restatement second of conflict of laws, which directs that the law of the jurisdiction with the most significant relationship to the case governs. The restatement further specifies that the state of the significant relationship will usually be the state where the plaintiff was domiciled. So we're usually going to go at the time. So wherever they were living at the time that the incident occurred, that will usually be the law of the land when you're talking about a defamation case. This is a very interesting thing because I want you to just consider for a moment. They came from California to Las Vegas, Nevada, and they're suing in Delaware. Now, they're suing in Delaware. I believe that the reason they were suing in Delaware is because that's where Deadspin Incorporated. And so they chose to sue in Delaware, which is part of the reason that they brought this whole forum nonconvenience. The question is, okay, so whose state laws are you going to work with? Say she work where's the home office of Deadspin? Should go with wherever their home office is, which I believe is New York, but I'm not sure. Should go with their home office law of New York? Should you go with So they say we're going to go with California. And there's a very logical basis as to why in a defamation case specifically, it makes sense to work with California law as having the most significant relationship. If you have if two people are in a car accident, okay, two people, one guy's going from New York to California, another guy's going from Nevada to New Hampshire, and they're driving along and they get into a car crash in Iowa. Where are you gonna have this lawsuit? One of them lives in Virginia, another one lives in Alaska. Where are you gonna have this lawsuit? Each of them want to have this lawsuit in different locations. The place you're gonna end up having it is where the incident occurred. So even though none of them come from Iowa, the site of the accident is going to prevail there. Not so with a defamation case. The site of this incident where this kid was snapped and labeled as being a racist was in Nevada. But when you talk about defamation, that produces a special kind of injury, which has its principal effect on one's friends, acquaintances, neighbors. I don't like how this thing keeps popping up on it. Let's take this off. Oh, that's not any better. And business associates in the place of one's residence. So if you think about it, especially traditionally, it may be less so today because so many people spend so much of their time online. But seeing as how your day-to-day relationships tend to revolve around people in your world, if it's the fact that your reputation is affecting you on a day-to-day basis, that people who live around you are now looking at you in a negative way because of this defamatory statement. So the harm is being felt in California where the family lives. They're the ones feeling it. They're the ones whose friends and neighbors are looking at them, gossiping about them. Can you believe what they did? In theory, that's the type of scrutiny that they're facing there. That's where they have their neighbors coming out and saying, I can't believe I live next door to a racist. That's where the harm is really being felt. And that's why it makes sense, in my opinion, to say that with a defamation case, the residence of the plaintiff seems to be the most logical place as far as whose law would apply. Whose law applies. Now, you don't have to sue in California, and maybe you can make a claim that you should, and I believe that that's the whole forum nonconvenience aspect of Deadspin's application. saying, look, we're going to be applying California law. Why don't we have this case in California? Why are you bringing this here in Delaware? And I can understand why they're making that claim. It's a logical basis for them to attack on. But the court's going to get to that later. As far as which law is going to apply, that's why they say that the plaintiff, as a resident of California, so no other state held a more significant relationship to the case. Therefore, that court applied California's substantive law. Here, the parties do not identify another jurisdiction with a significant relationship to this case. They don't claim Nevada. Maybe they could have. That's where it happened. But in any event, the court will apply California's substantive law. It's always very interesting to me when you have one state court applying law based on another state's laws. It's a very interesting concept. All right. So now they need to break down the contours of defamation under specifically California law, right? Because that's what they're dealing with here. So under California law, defamation has five principal elements to it. You need to have a publication, which is basically any writing or statement or made anywhere that has to be false. It's got to be defamatory. By defamatory in this context, we mean derogatory. If you lie about someone and say, they're really handsome when they ain't, that's not defamation. And it's got to be unprivileged. There's the fourth element here, because sometimes you might be privileged to defame someone for one basis or another. And 5, that has a natural tendency to injure or that causes special damage. Defamatory statement must also specifically refer to or be of and concerning the plaintiff. You can't just say something bad about a group of people. It's got to be specifically concerning the plaintiff. Okay. The claim has to be supported by statements containing provable falsehood, and while generally protected, expressions of opinion may imply an assertion of objective fact and thus be actionable. We're getting now to the meat and potatoes. You want to know where the meat and potatoes are? Now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes specifically talking about when can you rely on a defense of saying it's opinion and say you can't touch me because this is opinion, or when opinions can become and it can cross over into being an assertion of objective fact. And the same statement in different contexts we're going to see here could actually, depending on where you're making that statement, could in general be considered opinion, and then in another context all of a sudden be considered a statement of objective fact. The same words. But context is going to matter a great deal here. Let me just pause here. What do you got? Delaware regularly protects companies. Yeah, that's why people incorporate there. Audience matters. Example: Comedy Club versus Nightly News. Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely a factor in the totality of circumstances. That's correct, Hamilton. Here, Deadspin argues that its statements cannot be proven false. Why? Because they're statements of opinion. The statements express as opinions, though they do not enjoy blanket constitutional protection, because expressions of opinion may often imply an assertion of an objective fact. Imply an assertion of an objective fact. What the heck does that mean? They're going to explain that, how they understand California law to say that it can imply an assertion of an objective fact. So now we got to figure that out, whether these things are actionable or whether they actually should be dismissed because they're opinion. And you have to figure out whether a reasonable fact finder could conclude that the published statement declares or implies a provably false assertion of fact. How's California do that? Well, we see that they deal with the totality of circumstance test, under which the language and context of the statement are to be examined. So, where the indicia of opinion piece are present, readers can be expected to discount the statements. When there's indications that this is probably an opinion piece, in that case, you can, in that case, we can expect them to discount the statements in that context as to be, hey, these are just opinions. Or as you pointed out here, the difference between a comedy club versus nightly news. It's a comedy club, you're expecting it to not be statements of fact. Nightly news, you probably are expecting it to be statement of fact. Courts must consider the nature and full content of the public communication, knowledge and understand the audience to whom the publication was directed. Now, here's another thing also. When they talk about this here, I don't know what this means exactly. Like, I don't know. I understand what the words mean, but I'm not sure how this translates. For example, if they wrote this article in a woke publication, a publication that's geared toward lefties, I think that they're more likely to take this as face value because there's a certain confirmation bias that, like, I knew it, these football fans, bunch of freaking racists. As opposed to if it was published, let's say, on NFL.com, where maybe much of the audience there, or some, let's say a strongly right-leaning publication, where they'd be like, come on, you don't need to, the NFL shouldn't be dealing with racism. And this is not a kid wearing a headdress at a Chiefs game isn't displaying racism. So you can see how the audience there, if you're gearing it towards, an audience of people, or let's say you go to some rally, which is like, to an organization which is Save Our Sports Team's names. And they're defending all the original names, saying we don't want to see any names change and restore and maintain the legacy of these franchises who we're all fans of. Whether you're talking about the Blackhawks, the Redskins, you're talking about the St. John's Redmen, or whatever it is. So now you have an organization like that, okay? And someone sends out a publication saying, hey, this guy's racist who's doing it. You sort of figure that audience, they're not going to be receptive, and they're not going to be sitting here thinking badly. It's not going to them be viewed as being derogatory. Even if it's a serious context, the nature of the audience there is a different audience where they're likely to just sort of reject the story altogether anyway, and perhaps the cause of action would be more likely to die than it would be in a situation where it's being geared toward an audience which is looking to basically attack anyone who does something that's deemed remotely culturally insensitive. Okay. Getting into the contrast defamation, we say that something to be actionable, it has to be reasonably be interpreted as stating or implying defamatory facts about an individual that are provably false. How does this manifest? So, we say generally statements labeling a person as racist are not actionable. So we start with this premise. You call someone a racist, we're going to assume that that's a statement of opinion. And you cannot be held liable. And if someone says you call your next door neighbor racist, that's not going to be actionable. You could write an article saying, I think that John Smith is racist, and that's not going to be actionable. A term like racist, while exceptionally negative and insulting and highly charged, is not actionable because that word lacks precise meaning and can imply many different kinds of fact. In Cousins, the Delaware Supreme Court explained that defendant's personal view of what is racist was not provably false. So maybe when you writing an article saying, I think that he's a terrible racist and he's a slime ball and no one should vote for him because he's a terrible racist, or no one should ever, swipe right on him on Tinder because he's a terrible racist. Well, your standards for what is racist might be, pretty bizarre, pretty sensitive, hypersensitive to racism. So it doesn't mean that people are going to take you very seriously. And that's why in Cousins, they upheld the dismissal of a defamation claim, because they said that, look, while no one wants to be called a racist, at the end of the day, when the wider net is cast, this consensus quickly vanishes as to what's considered racist. And it's clear to us that Americans disagree about a long and growing list of things that to some are racist and to others aren't. And it's not our role to get in here what is considered racist, what's not considered racist. So that's why if someone says something's racist, we're just going to say that's a statement of opinion. So that's where Deadspin comes in arguing. They're saying, so we call them racist, so we should be clean. Let us go home. We don't want to be here we don't want to be here in Delaware State Court anymore. Why the heck is it? We just said, the statements that he wore blackface are non-actual because we're calling him racists. Momentous counter, and they say they often dismiss as non-actual pure opinion statements that someone's racist without more. That's if they just said, hey. If they wrote an article, this is the interesting thing. If they just wrote an article saying, we think the Armentas are racist. No picture, no nothing. We think the Armentas are racist. That would be something that's not actionable. You can't sue them for that. That's a statement of opinion. But there's a distinction between a statement calling someone racist and a statement accusing someone of engaging in racist conduct. If you say someone has been engaging in racist conduct, then we get to draw all sorts of roadmaps toward that lead you down the highway towards a beautiful lawsuit for defamation where you're talking about engaging in racist conduct. Expressions of opinion are not protected if they imply an assertion of an objective defamatory fact. And they looked at two cases here, Overhill Farms and La Liberté. So this is the key distinction here. Here's the nugget that we're getting here as to why it is that the Armentas survived, why it is that this kid is going to be able to take Deadspin and felt them. The court in Overhill Farms held that a claim of racially motivated employment termination is provably false fact. In that case, a group of employees accused their employer of engaging in racist firings. They didn't say he's just racist. They said he's firing. His conduct is racist. It's a pretext to hide racist and discriminatory abuse when Latino women against the Latino women and immigrants. So he sues them for defamation. They say, well, we're just calling him a racist. We're allowed. That's our opinion. We can do that. That's not actionable. California Court of Appeals said, no. This is actionable. Why? Because when the phrase racist is supported by a specific reference to its decision to terminate the employment of a large group of Latino immigrant workers. So now that's no longer a hyperbole type of characterization. It represents an accusation of concrete wrongful conduct. Saying someone's doing something that's that's wrongful, that becomes an objective statement. Your opinion has morphed from just he's a racist to this is racist conduct, that his motivation here for doing this, he did these things and his motivation was racist. Now you're ascribing malice and derogatory basis to conduct, and that is actionable. They talk similarly, and they say that in Overhill, more than harboring racist attitudes, they accuse Overhill of engaging in mass employment termination based upon racist and ageist movements. Such a contention is clearly, that's a provable fact now. Now you can look into it. Did he fire them because they were Latinas? Did he fire them because they were old? That's something you can really look into now. Indeed, an employer's motivation to terminate employment, in fact, is a fact plaintiffs attempt to prove routinely in a wrongful termination case. So, yeah, when you're just throwing out there that that's why he's doing it, and you're making those claims, that's now racist conduct. You're now attaching racist conduct, and when you make a claim about racist conduct, that's considered a claim of objective fact, not just a claim of opinion. Similarly, we got a situation in La Liberté versus Reed, where there was a pro-immigration rally with captions alleging racist conduct. First caption accused plaintiffs of screaming, "You're going to be first deported, you dirty Mexican," at some 14-year-old boy. Second caption compared a photograph of the plaintiff to a white American yelling at the Little Rock Nine. Television host moved to dismiss the activist's defamation claims, arguing that her statements were non-actionable statements of opinion. Trial court agreed, granted dismissal, but the Second Circuit Court of Appeals reversed, explaining a reader could interpret the juxtaposition of the photograph with the 1957 Little Rock image to mean that the plaintiff likewise screamed at a child out of a racial animus, which never happened. So they might have interpreted, based on how you framed it, that that's what happened here, that he's basically screaming racist epithets at some kid, which never happened, particularly in light of defendant's comment that history sometimes repeats. So the Armentas contend that the original article and its updates involve defamatory statements regarding conduct that is provably false, and therefore it should be guarded by Overhill Farms and La Libertine. And they go through the statements which fit that description, those 5. Deadspin's audience could understand his portrayal of H.A. to mean that his entire face was painted black. Because his entire face is painted black, it was his intent to basically be hating on the black community. Publication went beyond the expression of opinion and flatly stated his motivation for appearing as he did. They actually made the claim. You know why he's dressed like that? Because he hates black people. He's been taught to hate black people. This is squarely within Overhill and La Liberté. La Liberté. Quote, and what they write? They said it takes a lot to disrespect 2 groups of people at once, but on Sunday afternoon in Las Vegas, a Kansas City Chiefs fan found a way to hate black people and the Native American at the same time. So you can say it might have been couched as an opinion, but the author then devotes substantial time describing H.A. and attributing negative racial motivation to him. So you're saying the reason, when they said about him, the reason this Chiefs fan is dressed like that is because he's been taught to hate? That's no different than saying the reason that guy fired that woman is because he hates Mexicans. He hates old people. He's an ageist. It's the same thing. I think this is sound logic from the court. Further, the article may reasonably be viewed as derogating those who may have taught him, his parents, saying that they're totally fine raising their kids to be the next head of the clan. A reader might not, as Deadspin contends, interpret this as a reflection of the author's opinion. To say one is racist may be considered opinion, but to plainly state that one's attire, presentation, upbringing demonstrates their learned hatred for identifiable groups is actionable. What an amazing decision. California's totality of circumstances test centers on the statement's susceptibility of being proven true or false. The CBS broadcast showed him for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, viewers could see his face was painted 2 colors. If you actually watched the broadcast, you saw it was painted 2 colors, not just black. Deadspin specifically published an image that displayed only the portion of his face that was painted black and presented as a factual assertion Chiefs fan in blackface at the game. This is just utter BS. You're flat out just like making misstatements about facts that happen, conduct that happen, for the purposes of trying to attach negative opinion to him. It's just outright defamatory. The complaint asserts facts that reasonably interpreted established Deadspin's original article and its updates as provably false assertions of fact. So Deadspin says, no, you shouldn't be paying attention to La Liberté or Overhill Farms because those are uncommon. They're outliers. But court disagrees. Not so. They reflect reasoned assessments of the lines between protected and actionable speech. Which speech is protected and you cannot sue for versus that which is not protected and is therefore actionable by a plaintiff. It offers a paradigm for identifying and assessing provably false allegations. So we can only grant you your motion under no reasonable interpretation of the facts that could be alleged in the complaint to state a claim. But applying the framework that was used in La Liberté or Overhill, they are meant to maintain a possibility of recovery. Then Deadspin says, well, wait a second. You can't December 7th update can't be considered defamatory because it doesn't have his picture anymore. We took the picture out by December 7th. We say, no. When the of a concerning standard does not require you have to be express and identify him. Since that kid now has entered into it, there's a reasonable implication that someone was taking it. The plaintiff must also show the statement was understood by a third person to have concerned them. So with respect to the December 7th update, they're going to have to establish that people that a reasonable interpretation when they say a Chiefs fan was dressed in blackface and wearing a headdress, that a reasonable person would interpret that they were talking about him. Update with added language referencing young fan in the stands of Chief can, and then detailed someone in the stands found a way to disrespect two groups. I mean, who the hell else are they talking about? Who the hell else are they talking about besides this kid? So replacing a Kansas City Chiefs fan with someone in the stands, winky winky, reasonably implicates H and his parents. It reasonably, someone says it's going to be about, we know who you're talking about. The complaint sufficiently alleges facts whereby the December 7th update may be considered an accusation that he engaged in racist conduct. And then it gets into the whole forum nonconvenience, which I told you I don't want to get into that, but basically establishes that no, even though we're applying California law here, even though no one really resides here, you never made out a valid claim as to why this forum is so difficult for you. Since you didn't make that out, this case prevents a challenging factual scenario that sits on the fine line between defamation and protected speech. Nonetheless, the complaint asserts sufficient facts under which recovery is conceivable, even when viewed through the more discerning lens applied to defamation claims, because defamation claims, as the court is noting here and implicitly saying, they tend to die at this stage, but not so here. Deadspin has not established that no reasonable interpretation of facts may entitle the amendments to relief. Court does not find Deadspin will suffer an overwhelming hardship in defending itself in the state of its corporate home. Accordingly, Deadspin's motion to dismiss under Superior Court and Civil Rule 12b-6 and 12b-3 is denied. I hope that kid takes him to the bank. I do. That was a very evil thing they did to them for no reason. They just decided, I got to make my article and basically show how sensitive I am to every possible minority demographic I can huddle in here, even if I destroy this kid's life. It's awful. In today's world, anything can go viral, so audience is everyone. The audience consideration should be reduced. Maybe that's a fair point. You call someone a Peter that is actually yet racist seems more defamatory in today's world. Who knows? I don't know. Muslim apologist called Dershowitz a pervert in debate on the Mideast on the Piers Morgan show. Dersh immediately said he's suing for defamation, UK and US. Yeah. Title 7. So over here, based on what we just read, I don't think he would have a cause of action. Statement of opinion. I think Dershowitz would struggle to win on this. Right? Statement of opinion. So I think it's wrong to do it, but I do think that that's part of free speech. I think did Dershowitz actually end up filing one? Because I don't know that would make it. And on the yardstick that this court attached, I don't think it will make it. Alpha She-Wolf hitting me with 5 good Lawgic memberships. Welcome to the following. Those of you who were brought into the following courtesy of Alpha She-Wolf. God bless you, Alpha She-Wolf. Those of you who were brought in, please be aware that the following is not at all a cult. And I am not the leader of the following. God bless you. God bless you, Alpha She-Wolf. All right. I got so much left to cover, and we're deep into this show. So much left to cover. You guys are in extended coverage tonight. extended. What did I want to show you? Okay, where to even begin? Where to even begin? Let me just do a quick check around the horn here. Make sure I didn't miss anyone else because no, I did. You see, Violet Pride. What are you sending me with me? What are you sharing with me here?
Finally, tonight from here in Nevada, the way I just pronounced the name of this state is what this next story is about. We haven't always said it the same way, and there is a correct way, as our in-house linguist George Lewis found out.
Memo to all those political candidates trying to win votes in the Silver State.
Nevada, not Nevada.
Nevada State Archivist Guy Rocha says he's blasted politicians for messing it up.
In Nevada.
So no disrespect to the president, but when you're here, you need to pronounce the state's name the way we do.
The president got the word.
It's great to be here in Nevada. You didn't think I'd get it right, did you?
Nevada.
If you want to get it right, just ask the patrons at Heidi's restaurant in Carson City.
Nevada.
What happens when you hear somebody call it Nevada?
They don't live here.
On the broadcast tonight from Nevada,
The name of this place comes from the Spanish word Nevada, meaning snowy. But according to the official NBC Handbook of Pronunciation, originally published during World War II,
There's an NBC Handbook of Pronunciation that's been around since World War II?
Nevada. When Brian Williams called it
Nevada.
our Las Vegas affiliate was hit with a load of angry calls.
Some saying that Brian Williams was being disrespectful and
Racist! It's racist! It's racist!
calling it Nevada, and others saying that they weren't going to watch our station anymore because they were so offended.
While we're on the air, we get emails saying, don't you know it's pronounced Nevada? And then another stack saying, don't you know it's pronounced Nevada?
Linguistics professor Valerie Friedland at the University of Nevada in Reno says
Nevada? I'm going to say Nevada. I don't know what the other one is. I know there's Nevada. I'm going to say Nevada. I don't know what else you want me to say. Nevada. I mean, that's how it's spelled. Nevada.
there are actually websites that monitor this.
I'm never
You
going to
can find
remember
a
this.
list of all newscasters.
All right, I think we got the point. I think I got the point. I'm assuming I mispronounced it when I was covering this earlier. Here's Tom Cotton being very Tom Cotton-y. I actually wasn't going to share this link with you, but it's here in front of you, and I would be a tease not to actually let you watch this. It was pretty good.
My broader question to you, I think, is about this misinformation. Do you think this is a time to put falsehoods aside, like the idea that female?
I never remember this shyster woman's name. I never do. My gut says it's Kirsten something. I know she interviewed Trump once and was basically just a machshefa. But yeah, so here she is getting schooled by Tom Cotton.
Put falsehoods aside, like the idea that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which is just not true.
Well, it is true that FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security have been spending billions of dollars on migrants. I understand some people say they're separate funds, but we just passed a short-term spending bill. It's very common for the administration to come and ask for permission to move money between funds, especially to prepare for emergencies. And second, I would note that this administration seems to have no problem finding money when they want to spend it on their priorities. When they need hundreds of billions of dollars to pay off student loans for graduate students in gender studies programs, they somehow find it. When it's trying to get helicopters to deliver food and water and cellular service and life-saving medicine into these mountain valleys, they somehow can't seem to find the money.
My broader question to you, I think, is about...
Dang. Tom Cotton, bringing it. He's quickly becoming one of my favorites in Congress. He's quickly becoming one of my favorites in Congress. All right. Before we get into it, I'm just going to give you a quick clip from The View here. This is an astonishing thing. An astonishing thing. From the moment she was announced that she was going to be replacing Joe Biden, from the moment Kamala was ordained the second coming of Hillary, from that moment, most Americans, myself included, were very curious as to what strategy she would employ. Is she going to embrace Joe Biden's policies and stick party line? Or would she be somewhat distancing herself from them, somewhat stepping back from them, saying like, look, I haven't been president for the last 4 years. It's not my administration. I wasn't the leader. You can't fault the economy on me. You can't fault the situation in foreign affairs on me. You can't fault any of the things with the immigration on me, even though I'm the borders are. I'm not 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 the borders are. Why do you keep saying borders are? I don't understand. Where did people even come up with the term borders are? There's not even a real position of borders are. Why do people keep saying this? So I was like, okay. So you seem to be trying to distance yourself, saying this is not on me. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I'm sitting here as a vice president. And frankly, if she had taken that approach, that's a far more difficult approach for Trump to overcome. If she had taken that approach, the reality is, it is a fair thing to say that the functional duties, the responsibilities of a vice president are exceptionally limited. The only things she could really be held to account for are votes that she helped determine, which she did determine a bunch. So she's actually done more work as the 51st voting member to get certain terrible bills passed that she proudly touts as great legislation. So she has played that role. But as far as establishing policy on the border, okay, she tried to massage that, saying I'm only dealing with Central America or this part of it, or I'm trying to meet with different people, but not really in charge of everything. With respect to policies that influenced shutting down pipelines, influenced restrictions on furthering of exploratory elements for further natural resources. All that stuff, she could be like, I didn't do that. That was Joe's call. I had no say whatsoever. And it's technically true. You can't prove it. You can't prove it's not true. And that would be, she could have hid behind the relative impotence of the role of the vice president, saying, I haven't been president. It's time to turn the page on some of the mistakes we've seen over this administration, and most particularly the Trump administration. That would have been a far more difficult thing for Trump to overcome. Far more. Because now all of a sudden she is turning the page into something new. And that's why it's astonishing that she asked this question in the most friendly environment possible. I mean, this is literally like a Kamala Fiesta Palooza that she's getting on The View here. A Fiesta Palooza of we love Kamala, we love Kamala. We're going to give you an audience of all white women, leftist white women. Surround you by a whole bunch of leftist women. Everyone in the room hates Trump. We're going to ask you a little softball question. And that she answers it this way, she's just clueless.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Well, if anything,
wow.
Would you have
wow. Talk about doubling down. Talk about doubling down. She's basically saying, hey, America, you know this whole crappy situation that you're all miserable with? That's on me. I did it. I did this. I did that. That's what she's saying. Unbelievable. I mean, listen, unbelievable.
Something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Nothing. Everything he did, perfect. perfect.
In terms of, and I've been a part of
I've been the one doing it. It's always been me. I've been the one pulling the levers. He has his hands there, like clenched on the levers of power, and I'm sitting there with my hands on top of his palms, and it's sort of like I'm sort of like working it like a little puppet master here, like you know, actual Weekend at Bernie's thing. And he's sitting there, he's asleep, and he's saying, his hands, they're moving around. I'm the one who's wielding the power behind it. That's what she's saying. She's like, this entire mess you America are experiencing, it's all on me. All of it. Forget about Joe Biden. I was the one involved. I was very heavily involved there. Yeah, sure. We all know Barack Obama's hands were certainly moving that pen sometimes also. Who does this? How bad are you at understanding where America is at right now? You have no clue how miserable America is. Why would you do this? Why? It's so dumb. They're so desperate to make her look competent, to make her look as if she knows what she's doing. She's got the experience. She knows what she's doing. That even if the experience is completely fouling America up, completely turning this place into cluster fart after cluster fart. We are hearing noises, smelling smells, all of that stuff. She's happy to embrace it as, yeah, all of that's been coming out of me. That's all. Everything you're feeling with, all your pain, all your suffering, that's all. You're sitting there like, I can't take it anymore. Oh my God, get me gas. No, that's all on me. You might have thought it was Joe Biden. No, I agree with everything that happened every step of the way, and I was pretty heavily involved. Donald Trump must have been like, oh God, thank you for being such an incompetent nitwit. State of Hawker's blow and some radiation. I don't know. I don't know. I happen to know a lot of fine Nevadans. It's Nevada. It is spelled with V-A. It's not. It's V-A. Nevadans. Nevad. I can't say it. I don't think I can say it. Do you know how to say Oregon correctly? Are you gonna tell me it's Oregon? Is that what you're gonna tell me? It's Oregon. Like it's supposed to be pronounced like it's some character from some Japanese anime superhero. Ooh, Oregoni. Is that what you're gonna tell me? It's not Oregon. It's Oregon. Whenever I hear people say orange, I actually feel like a chill down my spine. Welcome to the following. Tony Hay Munkets, also known as Munkets. Welcome aboard. You think he's a deep state plant? Why do you say that? Why would you say that? Why would you say that? You want to know who's a deep state plant? I'll tell you who's a deep state plant. I'll show you someone who's a deep state plant. Can't even believe this. I'll show you a deep state plant. Where are you? This person, real right winger, representing everything right wing. Oh, this is America first. He's all about America first.
In my opinion, if you're a Catholic, you can't vote for Trump. You cannot vote for somebody who is now frequently supporting abortion rights. Frequently. It seems like every week he supports abortion. Catholics should not support Trump. If you are anti-war, you cannot support Trump. Trump is the World War III candidate.
So what's he telling you? Vote for Kamala. Let's put Kamala in the White House. I'm like, I mean, what is he saying? What do you think is happening here?
Trump is talking about wiping Iran off the map. That's where the war is going to go nuclear, not Ukraine. You can't vote for Trump. If you're an immigration restrictionist, you can't vote for Trump.
Really?
They're not deporting any illegals.
Oh, so instead we should have the borders wide open here. That's what we should have. It's like, are you out of your mind? I don't even tell me that he's not a plant. Tell me he's not a plant. That all the different hate that he spills out, and he does. He spills out terrible, vile hate. Okay, he's the rhetoric that comes from this guy is disturbing on a lot of levels. You'll never hear me praising this guy as far as any values that he embraces, because I think that there's so many things about him that are just revolting. But I mean, I think he is a white supremacist, at least in values. But the more I've watched of him, the more I question. He never gets arrested for anything. We never see him get in trouble for anything. Somehow he seems to fly under the radar pretty neatly.
Okay, that's not happening. They admitted as much. And they're going to
bring
in.
So I always had all these questions how he never got brought in on January 6th. I mean, how did this guy who was standing right outside there on January 6th, somehow he never got tied up in it, even though a lot of people who didn't go in did get tied up into it. You know, you had that guy, Ricky Antaveras, who was facing 20 years in jail, wasn't even in the city. He's right outside the building, and they didn't go after him. Why would they not go after him? Why would you not go after a guy who the entire left is screaming, and in this case, pretty fairly so, that this guy doesn't like anyone who ain't white, who ain't a white Christian? Tell me why it is that they would not, that this deep state, which is so antagonistic, so hostile to anyone who espouses the kind of values that Nick Fuentes regularly espouses, tell me why it is that they did not go after him if he's not a Fed plant, that he's not there to be some speaking voice to basically make the right seem like a bunch of crazy, insane KKK type lunatics, because that's how he comes across. So excuse me, that's why a lot of people look at him as if he's been a plant, that he's skated by while standing right on the nose of the Capitol on January 6th. And basically, I don't know what exact actions he took, but that there was no claim that he was pushing people to go inside there. No one make a claim about that. He didn't face charges? Really? Okay. All right. That seems pretty weird. When you would think he would have been the first name on the list of people they go after for J6. They didn't. So you tell me. They went after Joey Biggs. They went after Ricky Antaveras. They went after everyone else, but not him. When he's standing right there. So claims that he's a Fed plant basically started surfacing after January 6th. And now this guy who's a real talking figure for the alt-right, and he is alt-right, so or at least his values are supposedly expressing alt-right, is now basically telling you give the election to Kamala. That's burning your asset. That's burning your asset right there. This is
more legal immigrants.
Do you think Tom Cotton is
than ever before?
Plant?
And if you think there's some silver lining that we're going to get jobs in the Trump admin, maybe it's bad, but we're going to get in and fix it, think again. Because the personnel are going to be controlled by Jared Kushner. None of these people can vote for Trump. I'm calling on Catholics.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Where was I at? All right. Let's get into those capitalism men, why he skirts the law. I see what you did there. I see what you did. I like that way he skirts the law. That was pretty good. That was pretty good, Allegan. Pretty good. Pretty good. That was pretty clever. All right. Let's get into it. Let's do it. Let's do her interview here. I want to watch this 60 minutes thing. I don't know if YouTube's gonna let me do this. I'm gonna be monitoring my stream very closely to see if it comes crashing down. I'm very likely gonna have to edit this out after, if I do survive, because I think 60 minutes is probably pretty bad, pretty notorious about how they're gonna come after folks for covering their work. Some entities are very litigious, some less so. So 60 minutes strikes me as an entity that's going to be very aggressive. But let's watch this complete meltdown of an interview and understand this. This is edited to make her look good. They took her best moments and tried splicing them together to make her seem competent. And even with those fine edits from CBS, this is the worst. This is the worst.
Story will continue in a moment.
The events of the past few weeks have pushed us to the brink, if not into, an all-out regional war in the Middle East. What can the U.S. do at this point to stop this from spinning out of control?
Well, let's start with.
Okay. This is if you're looking at framing here, and the interviewer is actually not just friendly. While he will push a little bit to appear journalistic, a lot of the things, the way he sets stuff up, you can see that there's a framing there, and some of the questions actually help set her up to answer in a way that he's like, okay, here, let me give you a gimme that I know you have an answer for. But let's check out her answer here. She tries figuring out what to do with the whole Middle East situation, which for anyone who's a Democrat, this is a difficult situation because they don't want to hate on either side. They don't want to take any sides. They want to basically, frankly, any politician wants to remain as mute as possible on this issue.
October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. 250 hostages were taken, including Americans. Women were brutally raped. And as I said then, I maintain Israel has a right to defend itself. We would.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Because as soon as they do, they're considered genocidal. So how does that manifest?
And how it does so matters.
What way that they do so would be okay? When you talk about a right to defend themselves, what way that they defend themselves would be all right?
Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed.
By what yardstick is that? I understand they say 2 to 1 for combatant. There are two civilians for every combatant in normal urban warfare, at least according to a report that Konstantin Kisin put out yesterday. It's normally 9 to 1. So
this war has to end.
We supply is
saying the war has to end is basically not saying anything. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Israel with billions of dollars in military aid. And yet Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course, the Biden-Harris administration.
So this is a left framing. This is a pro-Palestinian framing, basically saying Bibi Netanyahu is a loose cannon. You're gonna be able to reel him in? You're gonna be able to reel him in? He's a loose cannon. We don't like what Bibi's doing. He's a loose cannon.
Has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted.
What kind of ceasefire? What kind of ceasefire? What does that mean? That they should basically say, "Oh, okay, we'll take it again from an entity that has sworn they will do it again and again and again and again and again." That they should leave themselves exposed to that. That's that. But just go home. Okay.
You urged him not to go into Lebanon. He went in anyway. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
The work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing
pursuit around making clear our principles.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop.
You're making a fair point here. And I actually thought about doing this as a locals. That's what I should do. I should do this as a locals because they're gonna come crashing at me, right? They're gonna come crashing at me. All right, I'll set it up. You're right. I'm begging for like a punch in the face. The reason I'm a little bit once bitten, twice shy, just to let you know, is that I'll just pause this for a moment. The reason I'm a little once bitten, twice shy is because I got a notification from YouTube recently. It was right before the holiday. Where was it? Right before the holiday. There it is. I got this notification. Hi, good Lawgic. It looks like the following program, Democrat policy of righteous hate, has failed on the field and at polls. Didn't follow community guidelines to help keep our community safe. We removed it from YouTube. Review and take action, which I already did this. This is the email. I already took my action. What we found is we think your content follow our misinformation policy. What was the misinformation policy? So apparently they felt that in that video I was a source of misinformation. But what was the nature of that misinformation? Content that might pose a serious risk of egregious harm by falsely claiming that footage from a past event is from a current event isn't allowed on YouTube. Read the policy. You can see an example at around 129.17. 129.17. So they give me an example. And I went to look at this video. Here's their misinformation policy. Certain types of misleading or deceptive content with serious risk of egregious harm are not allowed on YouTube. That includes certain types of misinformation that can cause real-world harm, certain types of technically manipulated content, or content interfering with democratic processes. If you find content that violates this policy, report it. Instructions for reporting violations of our community guidelines are available here. If you find multiple violations, comments you'd like to report, you can report the channel. Go after him. What do these policies mean for you? If you're posting content, don't post content on YouTube if it fits any descriptions below. Suppression of census participation, manipulated content, misattributed content. You want to know what the clip was? The clip was a montage that I shared of different Democratic leaders calling for someone to harm Trump. And that clip, that the timestamp on that clip that they gave over here, what was the timestamp? 129.17, was Dan Goldman basically saying something to the effect, and basically it was a clip of Dan Goldman, and there was some sort of statement that he made regarding Trump, which was basically easily interpreted as urging someone to cause harm to him. Now, was that what he was calling for? I don't know. I don't know what he was saying, but from a party that's frequently talking about, how they interpret Trump's words as, calling for violence, by that yardstick, I think anyone would interpret his words as calling for violence. And the point being that when you talk about divisive, fighting content that's inspiring people to engage in terrible actions, evil actions, felonious actions, that what we see from the left is at least as bad as what we've seen from Trump or anyone on the right. At least as bad, and often far, far worse. Often far, far worse. So I was showing a montage of that, and somehow that was misinformation. I'm still not sure how. But what I did to try and remedy is YouTube has this new thing where you can try and clear up a warning, and the way you clear up a warning is that you go through some new sort of training program, and they give you different scenarios, and they're like, is this okay? Is it not okay? And you click off the box, and if you get it wrong, they say, okay, you got that wrong, try again, and then you click off the right box. So they gave a scenario exactly like what I had done. They gave a scenario where they were like, okay, so you take a clip of someone that might be out of context, but something they actually said, and you clip that. Are you allowed to share that or not? And I was like, I guess that's what they thought I did wrong with Dan Goldman. So I was like, no, you're not allowed to do that. And they're like, wrong, you're allowed to do that. I'm like, why did you hit me then? What did you hit me for? What, you removed the, you just like, you removed the content and you hit me for that? That was just, I was like, I don't even know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of this. Literally what they told me, what the only question I got wrong on that whole exam was I assumed that showing a clip of someone which is not given full context is what they were punishing me for. But yeah. Apparently that's not it. Apparently that's not it. So I am feeling a little bit sketchy about YouTube, because I just got hit with that warning, and I'm just like, I don't know. So with that in mind, I think Adrian here has a fair point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule this live stream to start in 10 minutes. I think it's the wise move. But don't worry, I'm going to share it with you. You'll find it. You'll find it. The first people I'm going to are the folks over in Rumble. They're the first ones I'm going to. Here you are, Rumble people. Reviewing Kamala's. I'll put it in the I'm going to pin it in chat. I'm going to put it in the description each here. So if you came after the fact, you'll be able to find it too. Pin this message. All right, so that's there. Let's come over to this message. All right, so that's there. Let's put it over here too. Chat in YouTube. Oh, that's moving fast. YouTube is moving fast. All right, pin this message. And now I'm going to put it in the description also. In case you're not watching. Wise call on your part, Adrian. Thank you. See? Some people worry for me. A lot of you do, and I appreciate it. Adrian, certainly one of you. Let me take care of it over in Local's description also, so that local folks will have it in their description. All right, so that's set to start up in 8 minutes. I urge you all to check that out. Spuds was first in there, in case you're wondering. He was the first one in there. Well done. He wants everyone to know. I plan on showing some of their edits also. I know that it's been edited, and yeah, I plan on showing that. And Adrian, I'm sorry for beating you. Sorry for beating you. That was actually my finest win of the last year and a half. Since you've seen me, that the win I had this past Sunday over you was actually my finest win. And I say that because I made 2 pickups in preparation for the week, which got me an extra 30 points. So between my defense and picking up Tracy, that's where I think it was Tracy in this league I picked up. Yeah, my flex position and my defense was where I brought it home. So that's when you have to actually really sweat and think how am I gonna win this week? And I really sweated you out. You got a tough team. They had a full from the prior clip. 60 minutes edit shows it. Hamas starts wars. The supporters then complain about the consequences of starting said wars. Yeah. They're avid supporters who swear fealty to them. Yep. Can we review the bad edit of 60 minutes in locals? That's what we're gonna do. We will. If you have more edits that you want me to watch, we can break down how and why they broke it and why they edited it that way. Fair. Feel free to share links with me, and I'll try to pull them up also, because I think that it's worth looking at. It's worth looking at. What else we got? Yeah, I also wanted to break down for you how Trump was trolling her, because some of his stuff was really funny. I had a whole bunch of Trump stuff. But before I get out of here, I do want to give you an update. So I promised I was going to update you on Ungag Trump. So I updated you about my filing. I did not update you about an article that was already written about the fact that good logic was already rejected by Justice Sotomayor. So some of you may be aware, in my application against Judge Merchan. So I have Good Logic LLC and myself individually both suing Merchan. Good Logic LLC is represented by counsel Ron Baruti, and I'm representing myself pro se. We decided to file our application for emergency stay and writ of certiorari with Supreme Court separately. He filed his last week, and his arguments are somewhat different from mine. I filed mine today. I sent it out by overnight mail. Justice Sotomayor should be receiving it tomorrow morning by no later than 10 a.m. Or at least, if not her directly, the clerk of the court will be getting it by 10 a.m. I've served my adversaries. My papers are very different. There's a link to it that you can find to my papers, and you can see it. My papers are really very different from Ron's. And I'm hopeful that she'll accept it. We'll see what happens. Who knows? But Supreme Court, this was as reported by the Washington Times. Supreme Court rejects podcasters' request to lift Trump's hush money case gag order. As reported by Alex Sawyer. The Supreme Court on Tuesday shut down Good Logic's podcast founder Joseph Neerman's request to lift former President Donald Trump's gag order in his Manhattan hush money proceeding, where the former president awaits sentencing. Now, this is actually a little bit of a mistake. It was not my application, my individual application. It was actually Good Logic's application. But I'm not faulting Alex for that. Without comment, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who oversees requests out of New York, denied the podcaster's request for a high court to take up the case. A lower court had rejected the case, prompting Mr. Neerman, who is a member of the New York Press, to take his argument to the Supreme Court on emergency application to lift the gag order. Mr. Neerman, who airs his podcast on YouTube channel Good Logic, petitioned the High Court on Friday asking for Mr. Trump's gag order to be scrapped so that the former president can speak publicly on what critics say are potential conflicts of interest of New York State Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan and his family members. And that was a lot more of the focus that my lawyer made, which I made much less of a deal about. His focus there is that this is suppressing political speech from someone whose speech is really necessary at this time. Political speech is supposed to have the widest berth of protection. My focus was on the point that the case law that Judge Merchan and the D.C. Circuit Court relied on says precisely the opposite of the holdings that these gag orders reached from those cases. They literally inverted Supreme Court precedent. The analogy I've used a few times now, and I'm probably using it once or twice more before this story ends, is it's like I told this to my father today, that it's like basically reading the lyrics for the Star Spangled Banner, and you're like, oh, okay, you want to know what this song is really all about? You want to know what this song, the Star Spangled Banner, is really all about? It's really all about, because you see it says rockets red glare. Why is it talking about rockets red glare? Why would it say red glare? The point being that's the rockets red glare because this song is all about promoting how Russia is the greatest country on earth. That's what the Star Spangled Banner is really about, and that's why it says rockets red glare. That's what we can take out from this line of the lyrics. That's essentially what the court did when they took this Supreme Court case, which says never, ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever, ever gag someone. You really can't. And there's all these different high hurdles. Sometimes we need to consider maybe thinking about in certain limited possible ways limiting someone's First Amendment speech, but never, ever do it. And we're not going to do it here. And no, it's totally wrong. And no. And they're like, oh, you see, it says sometimes. That's here. And they go like no further, and then they're like, and then if you're gonna do it, you have to make sure that it's meeting strict scrutiny. There has to be like a desperate, compelling need that's gonna be locked down, and everyone has to know that this is it. It's got to be squarely on point, and then it's got to be as limited as possible. They didn't follow any of that part of it. They're just like, oh, it says sometimes, and when they say sometimes, that's here. It's like. What? How do you do that? So, yeah. Good Logic and Neerman argue the gag orders violate petitioners' freedom of press rights the moment they were entered. More specifically, Good Logic's press inquiry of President Trump about Judge Merchan's relatives could not receive a response, and Good Logic was deprived of an interview of President Trump for such reason as well. Podcasts are filing red. There have been accusations that Laura Merchan, daughter of the judge overseeing Mr. Trump's New York case, leads a progressive consulting firm, Authentic Campaigns, that have profited from the state prosecution of Mr. Trump. Allies of the former president have argued Merchan should have recused himself because his daughters work for the marketing firm that was profiting from the prosecution. The judge himself had donated to President Biden, who is the presumed Democratic nominee and thus Mr. Trump's November opponent during the trial. A New York regulation requires that a judge must recuse if someone within 6 degrees of relation has an interest in the proceeding. And this was all, like I said, this was all much more the focus of his filing than it is in mine. When you read mine, you'll see that mine is really a completely different focus. But Judge Merchan stayed on the case and issued a gag order against Trump, preventing him from commenting about the court, the family members, prosecutors, and witnesses during the trial. Even after being found guilty, Mr. Trump remains unable to comment about the court, prosecutors, or the families. His sentencing following his May conviction over hush money payments to porn actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 campaign is set for November 26. Found guilty all 34 counts in his start first. Criminal conviction. It's not the criminal conviction. It's not conviction. One of the things I did before in my formatting editing is I told Nathan, I don't want to see the word conviction anywhere in this filing. Nowhere should it say conviction. Anyway, so the rest of this is just about the case. So yeah. So what does that mean now? My lawyer says he has a chance to ask another justice to take a look at it. And you can pick the justice. And he is going to Justice Alito. He's going to ask Justice Alito to review the papers and issue the stay. So that's the stage we're at now. So basically, Good Logic LLC's papers are on their way, been rejected by Sotomayor, on the way over to Alito. My papers are on their way to Sotomayor, and the clerk of the Supreme Court is scheduled to receive them no later than 10 a.m. tomorrow. So I will keep you further apprised as there are more developments. as there are more developments. So if you want, I'll create a separate link on Locals at goodlogic.locals.com. That's goodlogic.locals.com, where I'll give you a link where you can actually read the filings that I submitted earlier today, that I sent out by overnight mail earlier today. So there you go. That's the story. I'm wrapping up over here. I'm late. I'm supposed to be over in Locals already. I'm going to be covering Kamala Harris and some funny stuff that Trump sent out there. There's some good stuff there. You should probably check it out. I think you'll have a good time there. We'll have some laughs. I don't plan on watching much of The View, to be honest with you. I think the little clip I gave you of The View was enough. That was enough. All right. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I thank you all for joining me. I will be back here, God willing, tomorrow evening. Until then, I urge you, look out for yourselves, your loved ones, and everyone around you. Don't eat lab meat. Don't. Lab meat is going to make you just puke. You're going to feel sick. You're going to feel sick. So don't touch it. Don't touch it. And yeah, never eat the bugs. See you at Locals. Godspeed.